Well, here we are, a post-draft reaction podcast on the Minnesota Vikings. This is the Mediokr and Best Sports Podcast with Realistic Randy. Thank you for tuning in, and we're going to talk about my reaction to the draft and all that good stuff. But first, if you don't know, you can follow me on Facebook.com/RealisticRandy or on Twitter @realistic_Randy, where I type my thoughts as far as live current events going on in sports, and especially during Vikings games or Vikings activities, such as Trey Waynes getting extended for his fifth-year option, which I think is great. But then also on Monday, it was announced that Terrence Newman is going to return to the Vikings in 2018. And then on Tuesday, it was announced that it's going to be his final year. Now, the reason why I bring up my social media posts is not to say, well, hey, go follow me on there, do whatever it is you want. But I bring that up because of this. So yesterday, on Tuesday, so I've recorded this on Wednesday. This will be up on Thursday. So anyway, on Tuesday, when it was announced that this is going to be Terrence Newman's final year, I said on Facebook and on Twitter, I said, oh, great. I would say let's win the Super Bowl for Terrence Newman, but apparently that's not in Rick Spielman's plans to win right now. And for those that aren't picking up what I'm putting down, I think the Vikings royally screwed themselves in this draft. I'll get to that in just a second. But immediately after I posted that post on Terrence Newman saying, hey, I would say let's go win one, but apparently Rick doesn't give a damn to win right now. Oh, just immediate feedback. Oh, you're so negative. You're so negative, man. Dude, we just went 13-3 last year. Why are you trying to be so negative? You should trust in this front office. And look, I brought this up before, but I'll just bring it up again because apparently I'm not Realistic Randy. I'm negative Nathaniel or whatever it is right now. But look, man, if you're looking for someone to just sing the Vikings praises and just tell you how good the Vikings are all the time without bringing up legitimate questions when it's warranted, I'm probably not the person you should be following, all right? I definitely appreciate all the support I've gotten, and those that like the podcast, great. I definitely appreciate it. But I understand because I'm just upfront with it. I just call a spade, and I understand that not everyone's down with that. Not everyone is up for that type of stuff. So again, man, I just call it what it is. I think the Vikings screwed themselves. And not to say that I'm negative all the time. That's not the case at all. Hell, I just wrote an article a couple of weeks ago talking about how Rick Spielman was doing a great job. I got on the podcast a couple of weeks ago and said, hey, in free agency so far this offseason, Rick Spielman deserves an A. I even did a podcast in the middle of the damn season talking about, I think the title was Praise and Accolades. I literally gave shout-outs to everybody in the Vikings organization. So if you're performing well, whether you're a coach, front office, or player, I'm going to bring that up. I'm going to say, hey, this person is doing a good job. If you're doing okay, hey, I'll bring that up too. But like, hey, they're doing not so bad. Here are the things that they should probably work on. And then if you're doing terrible, what am I supposed to do? Just come up with reasons? Well, he just hasn't gotten the right opportunity yet. We just need to do this and he'll flourish. That's not what I'm about. So anyway, gave praises to Rick Spielman, front office, everybody forever now, and say, hey, they're doing a great job. And that article I wrote, I think the title was, Rick Spielman is laying down the yellow brick road for the Vikings and saying basically based on free agency and signing Eric Kendricks to an extension, and then not only that, afterwards extending Trey Waynes for that fifth-year option, which I think is very, very good. I think people give Trey Waynes a little bit. I think he's too easy of a punching bag for Vikings fans. I don't understand why, because the dude, look, if you're going to face the majority of the targets on a consistent basis all the time, game in and game out, because quarterbacks are avoiding roads, I'm not expecting you to be 100% perfect because, again, you're being targeted all the time. But still, not too many cornerbacks can take on that role where it's like, oh, man, I'm going to see the bulk of everything all the time, so I need to be on my A game. I think Trey Waynes has done a good job. He's gotten progressively better each and every year. I've always said this dude has the ability to keep up with anybody. He is really good at positioning himself to make a play on the ball. He just gets a little bit too antsy at times, and I get he can be a little goofy at times. But overall, I like Trey Waynes. So the whole, let Trey Waynes go, we got Mike Hughes now. Like, I don't know if that's necessarily what you should do. I like Mike Hughes. I think he can be good for Mike Zimmer, but I also think that retaining Trey Waynes, giving yourself an extra year to figure out what you're going to do with him, I think was the best move. So anyway, I was like, hey, Rick Spielman, he's doing a great job. Everybody deserves an A. This is so wonderful. And basically, Rick Spielman is laying down the yellow brick road to where if this season is not a success, he should be the last person you should look at. You should look at the coaching staff and the players. And then the draft came. And you know what? After the draft, I literally wanted to go to Office Depot, print out the article that I wrote just so that I could throw it in the trash. Because this dude, look, here's the thing. You just invested $84 million guaranteed to a franchise quarterback. By the way, a franchise quarterback that you've been looking for since Dante Culpepper, as far as a franchise quarterback that you can rely on a year-by-year consistent basis. Brett Favre, he was there in 2009. He was fantastic. But in 2010, after a couple of weeks, you knew it was over. So anyway, you've been looking for a reliable, consistent franchise quarterback since Dante Culpepper, okay? You finally get him. We've been crying, oh, we just need a quarterback. Oh, my God, this is just terrible. Why can't we just get a quarterback? You finally got one. So you would think, let's protect this dude at all costs, because we've seen in years past when you don't have a reliable offensive line, and especially after ignoring the offensive line for years like Rick Spielman did, that's one of the criticisms that I've given of him in the past. I'm like, hey, you learn from your lesson, protect this dude at all costs. He's not a dude that he's not great at making plays outside the pocket like Case Keenum is or Teddy Bridgewater was, okay? Which, by the way, that's the reason why Teddy Bridgewater's value was so high for me. But obviously, since then, there's been more issues with his knee. So I wish him all the best. But Kirk Cousins is not that guy. He needs adequate protection. So when the draft was coming, I said to myself, oh, this is a no-brainer. This is a no-brainer. You're going to take a guard because, again, and here's the thing. Joe Berger retired in March. The news came out, I believe, the end of March. You had a little over a month's notice to prepare and say, wow, Joe Berger, one of the key members of our offensive line that did a very good job, he is gone now. We have a void at right guard. We just signed an $84 million guaranteed franchise quarterback, and we have a void at right guard. We should probably shore that up. Or if nothing else, we should add depth to this offensive line. And I'm talking about depth. There's a difference between depth and bodies, okay? Just because you draft somebody on the offensive line doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to be contributors, maybe down the road, but not right now, okay? You need depth. Rashad Hill, for example, and I know he was, I believe, an undrafted free agent. He got signed, I believe, by the Jacksonville Jaguars before the Vikings got him, if I'm not mistaken, right? But he got better, okay? He got better once he came to us. I get that. And Rashad Hill, to my surprise, he is depth. He's someone that you can say, oh, if someone goes down, you can plug him in, and then he can actually be not necessarily as good as whatever tackle he's going to replace, but he's going to be somewhat respectable. Give somewhat respectable production, okay? That is depth. Bodies, just because, oh, we signed someone and see we signed someone, he's an offensive lineman, and if you're bad at technique and you don't got your footwork together, it doesn't make a damn of a difference. So my point is, here was the draft. You're drafted at number 30. Before the Vikings draft at 30, before they drafted at 30, if I'm not mistaken, there was a run of offensive linemen. There was a couple of offensive linemen that went before the Vikings. And I said, immediately the alert went off in my head. I was like, oh, man, thankfully they got a chance now to get Will Hernandez or plenty of the other guard options that are available that can be day one starters, or if not, pretty close to it. And they take Mike Hughes. Now, here's the thing. This is nothing against Mike Hughes. I think Mike Hughes can be great for us. I think he can be great. I'm assuming that he was handpicked by Mike Zimmer saying, I can work with that guy, Rick. This is exactly what I need. And I get it. Hey, fantastic. I said after offensive lineman, we need cornerback depth. And then after that, receiver, and that was before we got Kendall Wright. But even still, you would take a receiver down the road. But I say, hey, you know what? Cornerback, after offensive lineman, cornerback is definitely a priority, but it wasn't the necessity pick. The necessity pick was offensive line. And you take Mike Hughes. And again, he could be great. But this was after you saw the run of offensive linemen go. And I said to myself, and I wasn't criticizing the pick right away. I said to myself, man, that's a little bit bizarre. You think you would go offensive line, but you know what? Day 2 is tomorrow. And I think one of my followers on Facebook brought up, hey, what do you think the Vikings should do? Do you think they should trade up? I said, honestly, I feel like they have no choice but to trade up because of the run of offensive linemen that's been happening. I said that before day 2 even started. And then all of a sudden, day 2 started, the second round of the draft, and offensive linemen guards are just going left and right. and the Vikings aren't doing anything. They're just sitting there. And I'm like, really? You're not going to address this? So the one opportunity you had to shore up that offensive line, and because look, who's to say the starting offensive lineman that you have right now, I'm assuming, is Riley Reif at left tackle, Nick Easton at left guard, Pat Elflein at center. At right guard, I'm guessing you're switching Mike Remmers from right tackle to right guard, and then Rashad Hill at right tackle. Now, Rashad Hill, can he be good as a starter? We'll just have to see. As far as a season week 1 starter, we'll just have to see. I thought he did pretty well for the time that he did get last year. But here's the thing. They could be great. All 5 of those guys, they could be really good, and they could be a respectable offensive line. But we can't rely on them being 100% healthy. You have to plan for at least one of these dudes to go down. That's what I'm talking about with depth. So even if a Will Hernandez or whoever the hell else you had an opportunity to get wasn't necessarily ready, if someone was to go down later in the season, you could bring in said person and not feel like you have to panic. We've gone through years where someone goes down and all of a sudden, just the whole offensive line gets torn apart. I don't understand why you didn't do that. So you didn't trade up in the second round to get a guard, a day 1 starter. You stood pat and said, you know what, we're just going to draft this 62. And at that point, I said, you know what, screw it. Just take another defensive player. If you're going to take a project offensive lineman, take them down the road in the later rounds. It is what it is. You've already said to hell with the offensive line. Apparently, our offensive line is going to the Hall of Fame. Apparently, everybody's going to Canton right now because Rick Smith was like, oh, our offensive line, it's as good as it is right now. So you already said to hell with the offensive line. I said, hey, go and take a defensive player. You might as well at this point, someone that can at least maybe be a contributor somewhere down the road this season. And instead, with your second round pick at 62, you ended up taking a project offensive lineman, Brian O'Neill, a project tackle. Okay, so here's the thing about Brian O'Neill, okay? He went to Pitt. I'm sure he can be really good. Maybe, maybe not. We'll just have to see. But it seems like he was drafted off of potential rather than what he can contribute right now. Here's the deal. The first 2 picks in the draft are not for right now. Mike Hughes, for all we know, may not even be available to play this year. Asking a cornerback to come right out of college and step in onto the field on the NFL field may be asking a little bit too much of him. When it comes to Brian O'Neill, the scouting report for him is, oh, he's super athletic, and you know, he's really tall. Believe he's listed at 6'7", but super athletic, but bad technique. Okay, and here's the thing, like I said, drafted off of potential, not necessarily what you can expect from him right now. He's not expected to be a starter at any point this season. Maybe he can be down the road, but it doesn't help your franchise quarterback right now. And that's what you should be focused on, is protecting, by the way, the most important position in all of sports, right? So this whole idea, and you know what, before I even get into this further, like I said, Brian O'Neill, super athletic, bad technique. You know what it reminds me of? Willie Beavers, super athletic, bad technique. You know who else it reminds me of? TJ Clemens, super athletic, bad technique, okay? And my thing is, not to say that you can't come in the future down the road a couple of years and then learn and then build technique, but if you struggle with technique in college and then all of a sudden you're not going to expect that dude to suddenly get it at the pro level right away. It may take him some time. And even if it doesn't take him some time, he may just flame out. He may not even be good. I just thought that was irresponsible to do. So basically, you're going with a patchwork offensive line all over again. You're just doing, let's just see what happens. And I don't understand it. Mike Zimmer, I don't know if this is him just saying, well, you know, you signed this $84 million quarterback. I want a cornerback now. I want to draft a defensive player to, you know, to make me feel better. And you know what? Whatever the case may be, great. Mike Hughes was the luxury pick. He wasn't necessary to pick right now. He wasn't the pick to take. And let's say, great. Let's say Mike Hughes, he comes along, and even if he is a day 1 starter, let's say he is, even though I wouldn't expect him to be, but let's say he comes in and he's able to start. Okay, fine, fantastic. Just because you have a great defense, right? Because apparently, based on the patterns and the trends of Mike Zimmer, he seems to really only care about this defense. The offense is like, we'll see what happens. We'll see what we can do. But this defense, this is the one thing that really matters, baby. But you know what? Here's the problem with that. We've seen examples of teams that have really good to great defenses, but not good offensive lines. And here's the thing. No matter how great of a receiving core you have, no matter how great of a quarterback, no matter how great of a running back, or how great of a defense you have, if you can't protect the quarterback, it doesn't matter. Prime example, the 2016 Vikings, for us, right? Our defense was really good. It wasn't great. It wasn't what it was last year and what it's expected to be this year, but it was really good, bordering on great. 2016 Vikings, third in passing, third total defense, right? 17th ranked pass protecting offensive line according to Football Outsiders, and that's mainly due to Pat Shurmur's system of getting rid of the ball quick and saying to hell with this. Let's just get rid of the ball right away. 3-yard dump offs, check down, so that way we protect Sam Bradford. That offensive line got ranked a lot higher than what they actually were. If they were trying to do a traditional offense and trying to get receivers to run their routes down the field, Sam Bradford would have got killed out there. So anyway, that's a kudos to Pat Shurmur for being ranked 17th when they should have been probably one of the worst in the league. And then 30th ranked in run blocking. Okay, so that was in 2016. You remember that year? Every single yard, every single score, every single play was such a grind in 2016. We have experience with that, right? But it's just the Vikings. And even in 2015 when we made the playoffs that year, and that's, again, more praise to Teddy Bridgewater because he can go outside the pocket and make plays. That's what made him so great. That offensive line was terrible, especially with Matt Khalil as your left tackle. But anyway, it's just the Vikings. It's just an anomaly. Listen, it doesn't happen to anyone else, really. Last year, the Seattle Seahawks. Now, I know they suffered injury. I know Cam Chancellor went down. Earl Thomas, I believe he went down for a little bit. Richard Sherman, I believe he had a torn Achilles late in the year. But their defense was still really, really good. 6th in passing, 11th total defense. Now, the problem is they had the 26th ranked pass protecting offensive line. Russell Wilson, the only reason they even had a chance to possibly make the playoffs is because Russell Wilson and his ability to elude pressure and get outside the pocket. But when you're having to do that on a game-by-game basis, it wears down on you. If you can't protect your quarterback, it doesn't matter. And then lastly, last year's 2017 Broncos. 4th in passing, 5th rushing defense, 3rd total defense. They had the 29th ranked pass protecting offensive line. The common denominator between those three teams, the 2016 Vikings, 2017 Seahawks, and the 2017 Broncos, they couldn't protect their quarterback. Good defenses couldn't protect the quarterback, and none of them made the playoffs. Okay? So this whole idea, we just need to build on this defense and blah, blah. And they say, well, the defense let us down in the NFC Championship game, and you're right. Here's the thing. Everybody was bad. Everybody was bad in that NFC Championship game, but here's the thing. The defense has shown you enough body of work to where you can say, okay, that was just a fluke. They got their asses kicked. Doug Peterson did a hell of a job improvising on Pat Shurmur and Mike Zimmer, and he took advantage of it. Hopefully they learned, but we got way too much talent on this defense. On offense, you can't necessarily say that because we've had struggles with offensive linemen before. And with the defenses that we're going up against this year, the great interior D-lines that we're going up against this year, including the Eagles, including the Rams with, Ndamukong Suh, and what's the other guy's name? I'm drawing a blank here, but I forgot. Anyway, these defensive lines that you're going against, and you're just going to say, we don't need an offense. We don't need any more depth. We're fine just the way we are. I think they royally screwed themselves in this draft. They should have did better. My grade for the Vikings in this draft is a D for 2 reasons. Number one, you took the luxury pick first when you didn't need to do that. You should have took the necessity pick, which was right guard. And even if we're talking about, they shouldn't be drafted for right now. They should be drafted for the future. Well, you still need an offensive line for the future. We still don't have an offensive line for the future. All right. We got Pat Elflein and Nick Easton. Who knows if we'll retain him? I do like Nick Easton. Hopefully, if he has another good year, we can. And then Riley Reef. Okay, great. The right side is still a question mark. Mike Remmers, who knows? He's had a little bit of a struggles here and there, but relatively he did good for the times that he was able to play last year. I'll give you that. But can he keep that up? Rashad Hill, is he more of a backup? Is he more valuable coming off the bench to replace somebody that's injured? Who knows? But you still need an offensive line to protect your franchise quarterback. And the fact that we've seen this episode before, and you're going down this road of patchwork project offensive linemen and expecting different results. This is the very definition of insanity. I don't understand it. They deserve a D. They didn't address anything, and especially if Mike Hughes and Brian O'Neill he's undersized. Brian O'Neill, I don't even think I brought that up. He's undersized. He still needs to put on weight to play tackle. All right, really? And then so he's not going to be a day one starter. He may not start at all this year. And then Mike Hughes, I wouldn't necessarily expect him to start either. So if your first two picks are dudes that can't contribute in 2018, after you brought in Sheldon Richardson, you did all these moves to go all in, supposedly go all in for this year, and you say, you know what, to hell with this offensive line, we don't need that. That is irresponsible. For as much praise as Rick Spielman deserves and gets credit for, one of the few things that just ticks me off is he gets too smart for his own good. He just has to get cute. It has to just go just against the grain and say, let's try this out. Things are going too perfect right now. How can I screw this up? So anyway, again, if you're looking for somebody to sing the praises of the Vikings and tell you how great they are all the time and just say, don't be such a negative Nathaniel or whatever it is, then I'm probably not the guy you should follow. Again, I call it what it is. The Vikings, they did a great job in free agency, but this draft, they royally screwed up because now we still have issues at the offensive line. If one of those dudes go down, and again, those starting five, Riley Reef, Nick Easton, Pat Elflein, assuming that Mike Remmers would be your right guard, and then Rashad Hill, they could be good. I'm not saying that they can't, but what I'm saying is if someone goes down, God help this team if somebody goes down, okay? Because that could make all the difference in the world, but it didn't have to be this way. This offensive line still has question marks going into 2018, but it didn't have to be that way. You should have just shored this thing up instead of just trying to get too cute for your own good. So they screwed themselves. It is what it is. So anyway, we do this once a week. Mediocre at Best Sports Podcast with Realistic Randy. You can subscribe on iTunes or YouTube. We will see you next week.
This is T1.